I think that podcasting is the greatest relationship building tool ever invented. The common misconception was, I'm going to start a podcast, I'll become the next Joe Rogan, I'm going to go viral, I'm going to make $1 million. That does not happen. Your podcast can get you relationships. So who do you want relationships with? Who serves your ideal client? And those are the people I would have on my podcast to build a relationship with and ultimately get joint ventures and referrals from.
Hello and welcome to the Liberty Spenders Podcast. Our guest today is Seth Greene. He is the nation's top expert on growing your business with your absolute dream affiliates. He took his own company, Market Domination LLC, to the Inc. 500 in 2023. He co-hosts the Sharktrepreneur podcast with Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington, who's everybody's favorite shark, right?
Although it's not, OGs.
Yes, the OGs. He was the nice Kevin, right? That's what they would say. 9-time best-selling author, and I can speak with experience. I've read, I'm not sure which one of if it was the first of his 9 books. But yes, I've read that one that he's holding up, and it's a great book, and he tells some pretty fantastic stories about launching his business with some boldness. He's been featured on NBC, CBS, Forbes, Inc. magazine, is the only person ever nominated 3 years in a row for Marketer of the Year.
I know. And today, folks, you're in for a treat because he's going to talk all about podcasting and how you use that as a client attraction tool. And of course, we love our podcast and we can't wait to learn from Seth. So Seth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here. I listen to your show on a regular basis. Huge fan. So super excited to get to flip the mic.
Yes, I love it. And of course, I shouldn't limit you because, we're expecting to talk to you more than just about podcasting because you've got some other cool things that you're working on. But I want people to know whether or not you have one or you're thinking about having a podcast. If you're wondering, this is an episode for you to listen into.
Yeah. So when I first thought, somebody said, you should start a podcast, right? And I'm thinking the only reason you start a podcast is because you want to build a big audience and sell ads. That's the reason, right? And if you don't want to do that, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
Maybe it's more of like a hobby or an ego project or because I want to yell about my favorite sports team. But you're telling people that their podcast become their number one salesperson. So I'm pretending I can speak to that with personal experience, but you tell the audience, how's that work?
So I think that podcasting is the greatest relationship building tool ever invented. I think it trumps any networking, any event, any other way you might have of getting in front of the right people. So the common misconception that you just alluded to was, I'm going to start a podcast, I'll become the next Joe Rogan, I'm going to go viral, I'm going to make $1 million. And that does not happen. Right? 90-something% of all the podcasts that are on iTunes are inactive. Like they pod faded. It's so common. There's a term for it, which is when you quit before you get to your 10th episode. So kudos to you guys for sticking around and doing it the right way. So the strategy in our mind is your podcast can get you relationships. So who do you want relationships with? Who's your ideal affiliate? So who serves your ideal client but doesn't compete with you? Who is your co-opetition, as I like to call it? So if I'm a financial advisor, maybe my ideal clients are also served by accountants and lawyers. And those are the people I would have on my podcast to build a relationship with and ultimately get joint ventures and referrals. So let's start with that as strategy number 1. Interview your ideal dream centers of influence as a way to get in the door in a way that is not perceived as salesy. And then we can talk further on about how we get them to fall in love with you, and then what our counterintuitive direct mail nurture process is that turns them from, hey, thanks for me having on my podcast, into a raving ambassador for your brand who's out there telling all of their clients about you and sending them your way.
Yeah, I remember in your book reading about the 4 types of people you should invite on, right? People who could become clients, people who could refer you clients, people who maybe are media or folks who could write stories about you. I feel like I'm forgetting the 4th. Cool people like Seth Greene. Seth Greene is number 4.
Sure, that I'll go put out a 4th edition of my book where we mention that. So, yes,
Me.
yes, Kristen, interview your ideal centers of influence, interview your ideal clients, use it as a prospecting strategy, but do not sell on the podcast. We could talk about that and how that works. The media is one of our sneaky strategies, and it's how I got written about in Forbes and Inc. magazine and on a lot of media properties, was by finding the reporters who would cover, say, the podcast industry, interviewing them, and then having them go, wow, no one ever interviews me. I'm always the person doing the interviewing. Tell me about you, because they can't help themselves. And then that leads into, I've gotten priceless free media coverage in all of those places that you mentioned, most of which were because I interviewed them on my podcast first.
So you call it the Dream 50 podcast strategy, right? Don't launch a podcast, launch a Dream 50 podcast strategy. So break that down. What is it? How is it like steroids for client acquisition?
Absolutely. So we call it Dream 50 because if you air once a week and you do it 50 weeks in a row, you've now got 50 relationships. We're assuming you're taking off for Thanksgiving and New Year's or something like that. Now, DREAM is an acronym, and DREAM. So D stands for define. We've got to define who our ideal clients are, and then who are our co-opetition, who serves those people. Then we've got to reach out to those ideal centers of influence in a way that gets them to say yes, which is by leading with a podcast interview. We've got to engage them by having them on the podcast and then giving them all the social media assets to make it brain dead simple for them to go brag about themselves that they were on the podcast, just like I will brag about the fact that I have been email my entire database and post all over social media that I've been on Liberty Spenders. And then I've got to activate that relationship. We do that through, again, a 12-step direct mail sequence that we can talk about, ultimately leading to the M in Dream, which is monetize. How do we cash in on that relationship and actually use it as business development and trackably make money?
We do need to talk about this direct mail thing, because that sounds counterintuitive for me.
Yes.
So you're having people on a very modern process. You're going to do a podcast that's kind of new and sexy right now, and then you're going to send them mail.
Yes,
So-
But first, I'm going to laugh and tease Kurt for saying that podcasts are new and sexy.
Well, I don't know. It feels trendy right now.
Direct mail. I get it, but I'm laughing.
I started
as
my
our
first
CO
show in
As our-
2007.
All right.
Yes.
As our COO says, he's like, I've been listening to podcasts for 10 years. Right. It was very simple.
20 years he's had one.
Yeah, or something. So anyway, but that's okay. We'll move past that because yes, compared to direct mail, right? It is, newer. But yeah, Seth, tell us about this direct mail strategy.
All right, so you guys have been on the receiving end of some of this, hopefully, but a week after your episode on my show aired, you got what we call our magic tumbler in the mail. So it looks like a Yeti for those of you watching the video recording of this. It has the art from the show. So it's got my picture and Kurt's picture on it from being on the show. And then it's got the smartest thing Kurt said on it. So Kurt does not know this is coming. He gets a big brown box in the mail and thinks, Kristen, did you order anything from Amazon yesterday? And then he opens it and goes, oh my God, this is so cool. And emails me and texts me how cool it is. And then he keeps it and drinks his coffee or tea all day, every day, and stares at my face all day. So I've gone beyond top of mind. I now have top of desk awareness. And then every month after that, Kurt's going to get something else in the mail from me. So every single month when a box shows up with my name on it, Kurt gets really excited. It's like Christmas, Hanukkah, etc. rolled into one. He's like, what did that crazy Seth guy send me now? And then by the time we get to step 2 or 3, I will have built up so much reciprocity and goodwill, which I got from Cialdini's book Influence, that Kurt will be saying, Seth, man, this is awesome. I love it, the stuff that you're sending me. This is so cool. What can I do for you? Which will segue into our next conversation that will occur on, on Zoom or something like that, where we talk about how we can play together and at a bigger level. And if I follow my script for that process, I have a really high, like over 90% chance that Kurt will say yes and become an affiliate, ambassador, et cetera, for our brand.
I love it. I do remember getting this stuff, very unique, right? And also not your typical business gift, right? It's not the box of, candy or, bottle of wine. We get those from time to time from clients, particularly clients who don't know me well.
We have a lot of wine. Yeah, because we don't.
I have a lot of unconsumed wine in my house that we got from clients.
Yeah.
And I also
if you like wine, you should become our friends, and you'll get some for free. We'll just, come down to our basement, sell.
I'll give you some more of our stuff. You can I'll trade you for the wine.
Right. Yeah.
My wife will be very happy.
Yeah, I like that as a strategy. But since we're talking about launching a podcast for people who are thinking about it, I imagine most people have objections. Mine, when I first thought about it, I'm not particularly compelling. Am I going to have to spend all day writing up a script? What are some of the common objections you see as you're talking to people about doing this, and what do you share with them?
So you are spot on. Every single one of those we have heard about 7,000 times. Now, the good news is none of them matter. So, Kurt, if you're saying, I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I sound, I don't know what to talk about, I don't know what I'm going to do, none of that matters because the interview is not about you. The focus is all on the other person. They should be talking like 85% of the time, 15% of the time, you should be asking questions. So you don't need a long script. You need, depending on how verbose, chatty, whatever they are, you need like 10 questions. And you just read the question and let the other person talk, and the camera will be on them most of the time, and they will be talking most of the time. So the video or audio most of the time is going to be them on camera and their voice. So it's not about you. And if you think about others, like I tell my kids, when you're nervous, get into service. If you focus on the other person and making them look good, all that other stuff goes away.
I love that line. I see Kurt writing it down. We're going to steal that. We have a 3.5 and 5.5-year-old, and that's a great thing. I'm always thinking about when I'm upset about something or worried, I go to gratitude. But yours is far more
easy to remember.
Yes, I love that.
That's because it rhymes. Like in my house, we say my middle child, my daughter, who was our theatrical performer for a number of years, coined the phrase nervous-sighted.
Oh, that's so true.
When she
are
was
you
like
nervous
13,
or are you excited?
Like 12, right. My wife would be, you're starring in the show. Don't you get nervous? And Ella goes, I'm nervous-sighted. And we said, what is that? She's like, I'm nervous and excited at the same time. I try and focus on the excited part and the people I'm there to entertain, and then I'm not nervous anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a beautiful mindset lesson, by the way. So everybody listening, take that note from Seth's 12-year-old.
If you're listening to this show, it's probably because you understand something most people don't. Marketing to Liberty Spenders isn't just about ads or tactics, it's about trust. And in the real world, trust moves through relationships. And that's why private introductions and deal flow are such a core part of what we do.
So FastPass is a private introduction and deal flow network for Christian and conservative leaders who already have influence and want to scale fast. It's not open networking, it's intentional introductions between people who already share alignment. We've seen one client land a $25,000 opportunity from a single introduction. Another told us that FastPass has become his largest source of referrals, not because of volume, but because of fit. And yet another closed her equity round at a key moment just due to the right introduction.
When you book a one-to-one consult with us, we're not handing you a list or making big promises. Instead, we're having a real conversation about what you're building, who you want to meet, and whether FastPass makes sense for this season for you. So no pressure, no hustle, and no awkward pitch from us.
Yeah. If you're ready to grow through relationships instead of forcing everything on your own, head to libertyspenders.com/FastPass and book a one-to-one consult with us.
In worst case, you leave with clarity. Best case, the right introductions change the trajectory of what you're building.
Okay, back to the episode.
But what I love about it is the way you think about these podcasts as part of a sales funnel. This is something that you're doing not just casually because you want to hear the sound of your voice, but you can build it into how you run your business. And you've developed a host of hacks. We already heard about one, setting some really cool gifts. So the interview is great, but the real money happens after. So how do you've got the gifts. What else do you build into the process so people reach their outcome?
So when we provide you social media assets and you go brag about the fact that you're on the show. So for example, I'm going to go post and brag that I was on Liberty Spenders. If you were a client of ours, what should happen next is when I post, there's going to be a wave of people on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever, who comment on my post. They go, oh, what's Liberty Spenders? Oh, I love that show. Oh, I'm going to go check it out. You should be then friending or connecting with every single one of those people, sending them a series of messages. Hey, Bob, saw that you liked my podcast with Seth. How do you know Seth? They tell you, you start a conversation and see where it goes and follow a process to determine if this person is a lead or not. Then a month or two later, they've gotten the Tumblr, they've gotten some gifts. I've said, hey, Kurt, what else can I do for you? Kurt said, hey, can you share something else? You shared a couple weeks ago or months ago that you were on the podcast. I get you to share one more thing. And I say, well, of course, give it to me. I'll copy and paste. That should be a direct endorsement of you. So now you're giving me the assets that I now go post and tell everyone, not just about that I was on the Liberty Spenders podcast. I now say, hey, if you're looking to reach this conservative audience in a big way, you should talk to the great folks at Liberty Spenders. It's a direct endorsement. There will be another wave of people going, ooh, I'm interested in that. And you should then connect with them, friend them, etc., and say, hey, saw that you liked Seth's post about reaching our audience. Tell me more. And now you got a whole new wave of leads of interested people from my social media network. So you should be mining all of your guest social media networks to generate business all along the way.
I like the way to follow that up, which leads me to another question. Now sometimes we, a lot of our guests are people we meet and we say, you ought to come on the podcast. And they tend to follow just sort of whatever we're interested in. So our show has covered a host of topics, from how to start your own podcast to, we've interviewed, people who work on everything from light, how to make more money to, pretty dark topics. But I think that's probably something that people get nervous about too, is how do I find my guests? How do I choose them? Maybe there's some wizardry behind it that you use.
We do have some wizardry, but I want to go back for a second because you just answered your own question from before. The fourth type of person you should interview on the show is the people you want to learn from. So, for example, I've had the founder of ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, who's now, fastest growing SaaS company in history, billions of dollars now in revenue generated. I had Russell Brunson on my show twice. And at two different points in time during his career, I wanted to ask him questions about a specific issue I was dealing with in my business. He happened to be dealing with the same thing, just at a much larger scale. So I got free coaching that normally would have cost me $50,000 a year to be in one of his inner circle groups. I got free coaching by interviewing him on the show and getting to pick his brain about the issue I had that I knew he had. So let's go back and answer the question you just asked, which was guest wizardry. So again, you got to think back. You want to think backwards. If the primary focus of the show is going to be people who could move the needle for me, who do you want that? Who is that? So who's the co-opetition? Who serves my ideal clients and doesn't compete with me? If you just do some brainstorming, and heck, God forbid you didn't ask ChatGPT this, right? Okay, I'm a financial advisor. I serve affluent baby boomers who are conservative. Who else serves the same people but doesn't compete with me? It would probably give you a list of professions. So, for example, on your show, not to give you advice, but one, could you be interviewing potential advertisers who are whales of advertisers? Of course you could. Could you be interviewing other people with lists of your conservative Christian, spenders? You absolutely could. And now you guys cross-pollinate. Now your list grows every time you do an episode because they're promoting it to their conservative fan base.
Yes, I like the way you're thinking about it. So people are in it for a while, got a few episodes down, and now they're looking at things like, well, how do I interpret downloads, rankings? Do I even care? What?
You can tell, Kurt's asking all the things that we've gone down this rabbit hole, right? That's why we're great people to be asking questions. Because, I'm sure we're unique. Right, like no one else has these questions.
Nobody.
Right?
Well, I mean, if we want to get personal, right? We enjoy the show for the relationships, and that was a concept that amongst other people, but primarily from what we read in your book that I really embraced. Hey, we want to meet new people, and so that. But I also, if I'm going to do something, I'd like to do it really well. So I'd like to have. There's the business. I'd like to be the achiever. I want to have a lot of people download my episodes. I want them to look nice. I want to look professional. You kind of. And at some point, I'm realizing, well, I'm not really trying to be a big deal. Right. But I am, I do want to see growth, and I'm hoping I'm entertaining people enough. And so it's like, how do you judge all of this stuff? I'm not trying to get advertisers. It'd be awesome if you're thinking about sponsoring a show. We have sponsors, but because I want to meet new people, I want to talk to people like Seth. But how do you determine that? How do you what matters? What should just be like pushed to the side and say that's just noise?
Yes.
Particularly when we're pursuing a strategy like what you recommend.
Okay. So if you're pursuing the strategy the way we recommend it, I'm going to tell you, you have my prescription and permission to not care about your downloads, advertisers, rankings, or any of that, because none of it matters. If we produce a show for you, 50 episodes in 50 weeks, technically all I care about is I got 50 listeners to 50 people I interviewed. So you could have 50 downloads in a year and be very profitable because it's about the relationships you build with those people. Now, 19 years ago when I started my first podcast, I was 3 years into when the first podcast ever aired. So I was early, but when I did it, nobody knew what a podcast was. Everybody was just really excited to be asked to be on something. Now it's been a while. The audiences have grown more sophisticated. Will your average local professional ask you specific, how many downloads do you have? No, they still don't know. But would someone who's higher up in the marketing, digital, podcasting food chain want numbers? Yes. So in that case, let's talk about getting them. So you're not going to be Joe Rogan. And if you don't have an advertising budget on top of your podcast budget, you're probably not going to get that many because you're relying on yourself to promote it and your guests to promote it. And if you get big enough guests and they do a good enough job, it could help you build a following. However, if you have a small marketing budget on top of your podcast budget, we have a process where we can place like 30-second commercials on other podcasts aimed at the same target market as yours and grow you a following for your podcast and raise you in the rankings relatively quickly. And because it's still the new ground floor of podcasting, right? Every couple of years, now it's new, right? As Kristen alluded to earlier. So now, because podcast advertising is only 1% of all digital marketing ad spend, the cost to get a subscriber, a download, a legit US person, not in, a third party bot in another country, the cost to get a real download is still ridiculously cheap, like a tiny fraction of the cost of what your leads on Facebook ads or YouTube ads or whatever else is costing you.
Well, and I teased Kurt, but I was glad to have a brief conversation because, there are, everybody's human. And even if they know, okay, it doesn't matter. You also want your guests to feel like they're getting some value from it, right? So you want them to have some sense of, hey, some people listen to this, right? Because if they're coming on, they're also hoping to maybe get customers and exposure. That's why they're coming on to be interviewed. So I do think it's something that is an important tool, and it's an amazing thing that you can provide that people can get. It is actually attainable. And I think that's important because it's really intimidating for a lot of people. Even now, like you said, there's more awareness. There's more people that are, again, because of our political background, just more people are aware of the growth of podcasts. But I think for a lot of business owners, they're still intimidated. So this is helpful information.
Yeah, well, to your point, I want Seth Greene to get a couple of podcast clients from getting on. I think that's a good value creation.
Right.
And so that's a reason we'd like to see some listeners. That way, one wonderful thing is not only do they get to thank us for that beautiful tumbler they got, but hey, I got a client from coming on your show, and particularly for somebody who might sell a high ticket thing, that's really well worth 45 minutes of their time.
And that brings up a good point, right? If you own a local pizza parlor, right? I'm in Buffalo, Western New York. So the wing place a block away from me is probably not going to be a good candidate for this type of podcast, specifically because the ROI won't be there. They would have to sell way too many chicken wings to make the money back. However, if you're selling something, half of our client base are professional practices, financial advisor, accountant, lawyer, etc. So if you're selling something higher ticket, then all of a sudden this makes a whole lot of sense and can become an incredible return on investment.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's say somebody's already got a podcast. They've not thought about this special thing. Maybe they're feeling kind of meh, decent guests, some listeners. It's not moving the revenue needle. What's calling Seth Greene is probably number one lever they should push. But let's say they can't find your phone number. What are the 2 or 3 fastest levers they should be yanking?
Let's cheat. How can they just get some information
MarketDominationLLC.com is the website. Or you can, if you want to set up a time, just go to bookwithseth.com. They need to rethink who they're getting on the show and start being more strategic. And that by itself should move the needle. Adding multi-step direct mail, a follow-up process will magically increase their results. And then, of course, if they're trying to get the metrics of, hey, wow, 10,000 people listened to my episode last week, then we could certainly have a conversation about the podcast ad service that for example, we beta tested it. When we figured it out, we beta tested on my wife. She had been podcasting for 5 years, over 500 episodes, Whiny Palooza. It's parenting and marriage and past performance, no guarantee of future success.
Did you say Whiny Palooza?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I get the weekly email, so I knew about Whiny Palooza.
I needed to. That's awesome.
It's a good name.
I will tell her because she still complains, going, "Can we rebrand to something else?" And I'm like, "No, it's been 5 years. You kind of have a website and a podcast and a brand for your business."
Oh, I love it.
But she's like, "We came up with that name when our kids were little. They were always whining, and we always had a birthday party to go to." She's like, "They don't whine as much anymore. We got one in college. They don't really whine, and we're not really going to birthday parties. Can we change it?" I'm like, no. So within her first couple of weeks of testing our service, she went from not even in the top 200 parenting podcasts to number 13.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
And we've literally 10x'd her downloads in 2 weeks. So it works.
Yeah. Well, and if part of your strategy is to be in front of the audiences of other people who do parenting or whatever, now it's not just, hey, we got some downloads from some random person who has no interest in parenting, but from other people who are listening to parenting content. I think that's another powerful feature.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've talked about podcasts, but I want to take a hard pivot because you've been teasing on your show unlimited leads for life using AI and some new software. So that sounds like malarkey. Unlimited leads for life, AI, that sounds like the kind of thing. Everybody's got an AI thing right now, so we all believe everything. AI is going to make our dinners, although it does help me cook.
I know.
But unlimited leads, I talk about that because what's this hype here? That sounds pretty exciting.
Thanks. So there are business owners who want the benefits of a podcast, but still don't think they have time, right? Even if it's only half an hour a week, they still think they don't have time. So what we came up with was an AI produced podcast. So it's not human to human. So you're not getting the benefits of building a relationship with someone. However, if you want like an invisible salesperson that is out there every week getting your thought leadership and your content out there and helping your website and your business rank in ChatGPT and the other answer engines, then us cloning your voice and creating a weekly podcast that we write for you, that gets produced for you, that you don't have to do anything to have happen. It just gets out there and gets your content out to the world is what we're talking about and is what works.
Wow. Okay. This is intriguing. So
I've seen a lot of those, right? Because like Notebook LM, we've done the clone and it is a little scary how accurate it can be. But this is a great concept for people that are nervous about it.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasts I listen to, I think, is AI generated, right? It's his voice. The content is amazing, right? It's still good content, but you can kind of tell a little bit every once in a while.
Yes,
the temper.
Perfect.
The temper's off.
It's getting better all the time. Yeah.
But I still listen to it because, the content's really good. And because it's in his voice, but he's written it, or at least somebody who's a really good writer is. But to paint the picture for us, what does that look like? How does that then stack into the lead gen process? Since we're not doing the gifts and all that, how's that work?
So yeah, it's a totally different strategy as opposed to the Dream 50 build relationships. This is thought leadership content. And more importantly, get your content out there without having to do the work yourself and get it to rank in, again, AI, answer engine optimization. There are 7 different things as part of an audio podcast that will help you get cited and referenced in ChatGPT and the other answer engines. So rather than paying some agency that says, hey, we can do your GPT optimization for like 5 to 10 grand a month, now, and we're going to need you to write 3 dozen blog posts a month and all this other stuff, and then we'll do our magic. Now you can get all the answer engine benefits and the benefits of having an audio podcast for like a fraction of that price, because we don't have to find any guests for you. We don't have to schedule anybody. All of a sudden, the biggest suck of time of manual labor for our producers is finding and scheduling guests. So if we eliminate that, it costs way less, takes no time on your part, except maybe one call with our team once a month to talk about what topics we're going to produce for you. And then we get all the answer engine benefits for a fraction of what it would actually cost.
And to second that, that is a real thing. Because if you think about now how things shifted when everyone started just not Googling to find a website, but Googling questions, right? And just trying to have the answer, right? Yeah. In AI mode, it's like it's totally changed the game, because now people, they're not even getting as much of the traffic, right? Because they're just reading the AI summary as opposed to like clicking on the sites to read. And then you take that the next step further, right? And it's all the chat, right? It's all the chat bots. It's Grok, it's ChatGPT. And so to your point, I just want to make sure people heard that, because one of the things that's neat about podcasting also is that right now, tools like ChatGPT are putting a lot of emphasis on that and authority. And so those things are showing up when people are using it as their search tool now. And so it's a really important thing to not overlook.
100%.
In terms of the power of making sure that you're getting those results. And I did want to ask one other thing, which is, I want to give you a chance, because I sort of made a joke about it before about the voice, or, I'm sure there's a lot of people that might be concerned, right? Well, look, am I going to sound like a robot? Like, is this going to make me feel inauthentic? What's it going to do to my brand? What would you say to people who are wondering how they could use this, but still make it sound warm, inviting, and end with, oh, hey, I want to talk to that person, or I want to learn more, outside of maybe what they're learning? Because I know people are going to have that concern. So what would you say?
Yes. And to your point, 58.5% of searches now ended without a click. They're either reading the AI, they're reading the Google AI summary, or they're doing them on ChatGPT and there's no click. Although the newest update is ChatGPT is now beta testing ads so that advertisers can advertise based on what you're asking. So we're really excited to start beta testing that. Now, the answer to your question, I'm concerned about my voice. No, you're not going to sound like a robot. So we are producing about a dozen AI shows right now. And we have literally sent the clone of the voice to each client and said, how does this sound? They all said, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like me. Like, we had one person who said, make it say this as a test, and then send it to his wife, and his wife thought it was him.
That's so fantastic. That's the ultimate test. Send it to your spouse.
And he said, give me the file. I'm going to send it to her as a voice, as if I sent her a voice memo. And she just replied. She didn't go, why do you sound weird? She just thought it was him.
I'm skipping right over the joke of, well, what did he make it say? Then we'll just move.
We can't
skip past that. Am I chastising my spouse? Is this, we're having a pretend argument to see if it's noticeable.
Yeah.
But it's true. The technology really is amazing. And I think, from what I have seen, is a lot of it just comes down to what are you providing it? Right? Because that's what it's trying to base it off of. So just to kind of help people be reassured.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, is this a strategy for somebody who maybe has a podcast, but wants to create sort of a separate, maybe it's a separate topic they want to become more authoritative on, so you would have, like in our case, you'd have Liberty Spenders, but you could have the Liberty Political podcast, right? And do that with audio, right? Because we kind of play in both things. We work with a lot of businesses who want to market to conservatives and Christians, but we also still help raise money for Republican politicians. And we sometimes bring on our political folks onto our show, but we generally keep it separate. We've had a couple of our political consultant friends on, but we could have a separate one to build more of our brand in sort of the political space. Is that doable? Is that sort of is that going to sort of work against each other? What's the experience there?
So yes, you can do it. No, it's not going to work against each other. It's going to complement each other. And we've had clients who have done it. We've had clients who have a human to human show and then added an AI show on separate topics. We have a couple clients who said, hey, I have a webinar that converts really well. So we took the audio out of the we cloned their voice. We took the webinar script because you wouldn't listen to a webinar as a podcast with him saying, type in the chat, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We redid the script without those things with his cloned voice and are airing that webinar as a little 5-minute chunks as a podcast, audio AI powered podcast every single week. So you can totally do it in this example, we're turning a webinar video into an audio sales letter through a podcast.
The reason this is even more intriguing to me, and I won't do this complete justice, but one of our partners and people we've had on our show, or persons we've had on our show, and then he's also given some teaching to our audience, is Mark Masters, who was helped found Fox News Radio and launched the radio career of a bunch of conservative personalities. And he said what he discovered when he was doing that work was sometimes it was easier to grow your audience by starting a second show than it was to get twice as many people to watch the existing show. And so the idea that we could develop these little niche programs is very interesting.
It's counterintuitive for a lot of people, but he discovered that.
Yeah. And I think that would be an interesting strategy for people, particularly folks who have different potential target clients, as
different verticals.
Different verticals. So I want to hear, we're podcasting gurus, you got the human to human, you now have AI. Give us an example. You've got to have a cool client story. Somebody used to burn cash on ads or grind on cold calls. Maybe they flipped a switch to your podcasting, or they switched the AI system. Now they get cool and better leads for cheaper. Give us a good, sexy story.
Sure. So
no pressure.
No pressure. So he'd actually be, now that I'm thinking about it, he'd actually be a good referral for you. So past performance, no guarantee of future success. Insert standard legal disclaimers here. However, Riley Meek is one of our favorite clients. He runs the King's Council, which is a coaching program for affluent conservative Christian businessmen. And
we've had him on.
Yeah. I did not know you knew Riley.
I do not want to interrupt your flow, but he is awesome. I just want to, you are so right. He is a phenomenal human being.
Yes, we love Riley, and he has been a client of here for years and years and years. And this is not, past performance, not future success guaranteed. But literally his first year of his podcast with us generated him over 7 figures in revenue. Mm-hmm. Not a single ad or sponsorship sold, all based on the relationships that we built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're excited for him because he's coming out with the 3rd book in his series. And
we are producing.
I literally just talked to him last week.
Yes, we do. We publish it. We ghostwrite, edit, and publish his books.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you, he just sent us.
We are working on book 3 literally right now.
Right. Well, he just sent us the cover, which brought maybe your team.
Maybe it was hot off of your fingers, and then he just sent it to us.
He's now I realize the timestamp on this might be, but he is he's doing our next mastery series. For our group coming up. And like you said, he's phenomenal.
He's awesome. Well, that is a great client story and serendipitous in a bunch of ways.
Right.
Awesome. What a small world.
Well, because he is a perfect profile for us. A lot of the same types of customers. And, we refer business to each other. He's one of our testimonials for our referral network.
Yeah.
And so a great guy.
Yeah.
So everybody's I'm excited about this, and I'm already doing a lot of it, but not everything. So I've got some cool extra ideas.
There's always room to improve.
I think I'm going to give you one last chance here, because I think, having talked to a lot of people, you've probably heard a lot of reasons they don't want to do this. Let's set up a straw man and knock it down. What are the last couple reasons that people tell you, I don't want to do this, and why should they?
Okay, so Kristen alluded to a number of them. You alluded to some. Don't want to be on camera shy. What am I going to talk about? Yeah, Kristen mentioned a few. I think I don't have time. I think the biggest one underlying all of those is like, how am I going to make money at this? Who's going to listen to me? And it's not about you. It's about the relationships you build with the people you interview. So hopefully that covers that one. And think about the potential relationship and what's that worth. If your average client pays you, I'm making this up, 10 grand a year, and you interview someone who has an email list. So for example, I did one earlier today with a web design and marketing firm that works with insurance agents, high-end commercial P&C. And he's got like 8 active clients and 50 lower level clients. And I said, okay, so for 58 people, you could send 58 personal introduction emails saying, hey, you should talk to Seth. You copy and paste 58 times over a week or two. And I will send an email blast to our 26,000 financial advisors. And he's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I love that way of thinking about it. And there's so much great potential here, but we're coming to the end. And it's time for our lightning round. We have 3 questions. The idea is about 90 seconds each, but accountability is low here. I try to take people and get them in the mindset. You're decades from now, you're laying in bed, you're looking back at your life. How do you feel you will know that you've had a life well lived and a legacy you're proud of?
Did I leave the world a better place than I got it, than I found it? Will people still talk about or use my resources long after I'm gone? And I think the most important one is, did we raise our 3 kids into people who are making the world a better place?
All right. Now on a way off topic, right? So this is your chance to shine on something not related to podcasting or marketing. 90 seconds on any topic that's been interesting you lately. Just needs to be off topic. Maybe it's a hobby, good book, sports team you want to sing the praises of. What's got you going down the rabbit hole?
Well, my football team, the Buffalo Bills, is out, so we're gonna skip about that.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and now we need a new head coach. Separate conversation.
Yes.
Let's talk about personal development. Let's talk about, I think there is no greater laboratory for growing yourself as a person than trying to grow a business. There are no highs higher than when it works, and there are no lows lower than when it doesn't, in my experience. So I think that who you are being affects how well what you do works. So I think the most important thing to work on every single day is yourself, as a person, as a thought leader, as a spouse, as a father, mother, entrepreneur. So the latest book that I am reading right now it's a limited edition, so you can't go get it on Amazon. It's called The Black Book of Power by Stan Taylor, which is his fake name, not his real name. It's kind of dark in terms of serious human psychology and manipulation, but I can't put it down.
Wow.
Okay.
The Black Book of Power.
Hey.
There are some image figures on Amazon. They are not the real thing. You can't buy the real thing on Amazon. It's like 600 pages. Like, you have to buy direct.
Okay.
Oh, wow. So, and you have to have the secret decoder ring.
Yep.
If you send an email to Seth at Market Domination and you ask specifically, you may or may not be introduced to the true source of the Black Book of Power.
If he's even still selling it anymore, but anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, what a tease. Come on now. We can't even get it.
He's not a client of mine. I don't make any money.
I'm just joking. There's this incredible book. You can't buy it except direct, except I'm not sure if it's being sold anymore.
Well, he gave it and he took it away. So now I'm willing to pay $100 for it. This is a great marketing strategy.
I paid $200 for one book. I paid $200 for it.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Okay.
Well, last thing we want to give you an opportunity to do. I would like you to give your best 90-second pitch for Market Domination. Pretend nobody's been listening. What do you do? What's the value you provide? Who should be working with you? How do they find you?
If you are a professional practice owner, like a financial advisor, accountant, lawyer, or an author, speaker, coach, consultant, or a course creator or community leader, go to bookwithseth.com. We can set up a time to talk. There's no sales pressure on that call whatsoever. Hopefully you can tell that's not the way we do business. Our goal is to grow your business so you can run it. And one of our biggest mechanisms for doing that is building you relationships with 50 of your dream centers of influence and turning them into evangelists for your brand so that they are literally generating leads for you every single week.
There you go. And he did it well under 90 seconds. That's a win. Absolute pro. He is Marketer of the Year.
I know.
3 years in a row.
We did find that
You're nominated. 3 years. There's a reason for that. He knows what he's doing.
We're laughing because we're happy. It's
such a great
talking to you, Seth. True.
It has been great. It's been wonderful to have you on the show, and I always like it when I take notes. And you can see for folks looking in, I've got 2 pages of notes from Seth. So make sure you give this a second listen if you've been going through this 2 times fast, and definitely check out Seth at book and talk to him at bookwithseth.com. And then the website, marketdominationllc.com. Was
Correct.
That? Perfect. And get his book. I read it and it was very valuable for us.
Can I give you a link for that?
Yes.
We've got a special offer for your listeners. If they go to ultimatepodcastbook.com, they can get the 3rd edition, which you may not even have yet. This is just came out. The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, Turning Warm Fuzzy Feelings into Cold Hard Cash for 30% off the Amazon price. It is the physical copy. So go to ultimatepodcastbook.com and get your 30% off copy. Thanks to Kurt, Kristen, and Liberty Spenders.
Seth, thank you so much. Thank you for just being willing. It's so great. You're not hiding anything back. You're willing to share your knowledge and expertise and help people. And we just really appreciate that and appreciate that about what you do. So thanks so much. It's a real pleasure because we had not met before. So I'm thrilled to be now introduced and to hear more from you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And for those of you listening, we know how valuable your time is. Thanks for spending some of it with us. If you found the episode valuable, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out and the show. And maybe you'll catch a new thing when we drop it. So until then, everybody, be well.